This is a lesson on the 7 deadly boxes. The 7 box shapes are derived from taking every tone from a major scale and building a box out of it. That box has 2 rules when constructing it. Rule 1 is that the box must be confined within 5 frets. Rule number 2 is no more than 3 notes per string. And rule number 3 is there's no talking about whatever. So to illustrate that, let's just go through it. It'll make more sense. If I were to take a major scale, we know how to make major scales. We go whole, half, whole, half, whole, half. Okay? That's just the pattern. You take the first note, take a half, take a whole step, take a whole step, take a half step, take a whole step, take a whole step, whole step, and the half step leads you back to your root note again. For the G major scale, if we did that on one string and took our root note, whole, half, that would be the notes of G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, octave, okay? So we're going to take each one of those root notes right here on the low E string and construct a box starting with that low note. So the first box will start here with our index finger on the G. Our second box will start here with our index on the A. Our third box will start here at the third note with our index on the B, our third, and so on and so on. Fourth box will start here with our index on the C, etc. Each one of these boxes will still be playing the G major scale, will just be starting on a different note. Just like if I were to carry this through, don't get confused when you start playing across the strings. This is still the G major scale. I just started on the second note, and maybe I ended on the second note, right? Just because I start on a different note doesn't mean it's not the G major scale, okay? It's still the G major scale, I just started on a different tone. It's still the notes of G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, okay? So, the first box using the 2 rules. These boxes will be consisted of 3 notes per string, as rule number whatever, 1 or 2 has told us. There's really only 3 shapes that you're ever going to come across other than the 2 note per strings. But with 2 note per strings, it's either going to be a whole step or a half step. With the 3 note per strings, it's either going to be 2 whole steps. So you'll take the note a whole step away, which I generally play index finger, middle finger, and then another whole step, which I normally go middle finger, pinky. That's shape 1. Shape 2 will be the root note or the bass note a whole step away, which I would normally play index, ring, and then a half step away, which I'd play ring, pinky. And shape 3, which would be the bass note a half step away, which would be like this, which I'd play index finger, middle finger, then a whole step away, which I'd play middle finger, pinky. So these 3 shapes, 1, 2, 3. Okay, those are the 3 shapes we're going to come across. Because the G major scale is constructed of a series of whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half, we'll be mostly taking whole steps, and we'll have 2 little half steps in there. So the only patterns we will ever come across are a series of whole steps, and occasionally we'll have a half step in between. We'll never have 2 half steps in a row, and we'll never have more than 3 whole steps. So 3 whole steps, whatever. So let's just go through. I will show you the first box, and then the rest of them you'll just have to take my word on it. And if you don't believe me, and I don't blame you, do it yourself. Hit pause. Get out a piece of paper, whatever it is you want to do. I think getting a piece of paper with the map of the fretboard with all the strings on it and the frets written out, and drawing out little circles and circling that big section and saying this is box 1 is a great way to start learning. Looking at it, visualizing it, then flip to the next page, draw it out again, draw your second box, dot in all the notes out of it, a big circle around that big 5 fret section and call that box 2, right? Flip to the next page, draw it again, etc. That's a great way to start visualizing, looking at it, and then thinking about how that looks from your point of view as well when you're playing guitar, and thinking about those patterns. You'll see them as some type of a geometric shape, right? You'll see them as a series of kind of like wide areas and narrow areas, so it kind of looks like wide, narrower, shifted area maybe. You'll start to see the shapes evolve in your head, right? It'll make more sense as you memorize it, but you won't really memorize so much like these notes are the exact ones I played. You'll memorize more like, I remember it was this pattern, that pattern, that pattern, this pattern, that pattern. And so that's why I want you to memorize it like this. The important part is that since the guitar is tuned the way that it is tuned, taking these patterns, if you shift around, it automatically transposes. So if you were to learn this right here, this first box shape for G, and you were to shift it anywhere, that would be the first box shape for whatever that first note you start on. So if I started on G, and I learned that box shape, and then I shifted all the way up to here to B, and I play that same box shape, I'm now playing the B major scale in the first box shape. That's just the way the guitar works. All these boxes automatically transpose. So you learn the 7 boxes, and now you can play all of the notes of every scale, all of the fretboard, and all you had to do is memorize 7 boxes. That, to me, is like the most bang for the buck that you'll get out of guitar, as far as like memorizing something and learning it. So let's go over this. The G major scale is G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and then back to your root note again. So if I start mapping that out, starting here on the 3rd fret of the E string, which is our G, and I go, find all my notes. G, my A, my B, my C is right here, but that is not only, breaks 2 rules. It is 6 frets of a stretch, which breaks the 5 fret rule, and it is 3 notes per string. So I can't play the C there. I have to play it within the constraints of my box, right? Which means I'll play the C here on the A string of the 3rd fret. Continuing throughout the scale, my next note is a D, next note is a E, the next note is an F sharp, which on the same string would be way up here, but that is outside my box, and it's also 4 notes on the same string. So I have to play where the next string over, where's my F sharp appear? Appears here at the 4th fret. So continue at F sharp to my root note is half step away. So far I have it. And I continue that again. G, I find my A. My B is here, but it's also here. And my C is a half step away. My D is a whole step away. My E, my E is here. On the 5th fret. My F sharp is here. My G is back here. My A is here. And my B is here. So those are all the notes that I can play that are in G major in that box. So think about those in the 3 shapes I showed you before. It will be shape 1, which is 2 whole steps. Shape 1 again. Shape 3. Shape 3. A whole step. And then E's are the same. Both E strings are the same. So it's the shape 1 again. So that's my first box. Okay? First box. Alright, that was the first box, which starts on the first note of the scale. Now let's do the same G major scale starting from the 2nd note, which would be our 2nd box. This is the point where you've just got to believe me. If you don't believe me, go do the homework yourself. If I just play the G major scale, all the notes from the G major scale, within this 5 fret box, which would be from fret 5 to fret 9, and I started on the 2nd tone of the scale, which is an A, then these are the notes that will play. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then I carried throughout the rest of the scale. So this is our second box. And the second box shape is the third shape. I'm sorry, the second shape. The first shape. Second. Sorry, the first shape. A whole step. The second shape. Second shape. And that is our second box shape. Third box shape, we'll be starting on the third tone of the scale, which is here at our B. If we constrain it to 5 frets, which would be from 7 to 10, and play no more than 3 notes per string, and play only the notes from the G major scale, starting from the third tone, this is exactly what you'll come up with. Started to go off again. So that is pattern 3, pattern 2, pattern 2, whole step, pattern 3, pattern 3. Alright, pattern 4, constraining it to 5 frets. We'll be going from the 8th fret to the 12th fret, no more than 3 notes per string, playing the G major scale starting on the 4th tone, playing only notes from the G major scale. You would come up with this. Okay, that is the first shape. The third, the second, a whole step, and the first. Okay, let's continue on. The 5th box, starting from the 5th tone of the scale, playing only notes from the G major scale, constraining ourselves to frets 10 to frets 14, playing only 3 notes per string. This is the box you will come up with. Alright, that is the first shape. The first shape. The first shape. The third shape, a half step, and the first shape. Okay? 6th shape, or 6th box, starting from the 6th tone of the scale and playing within our constraints again, we'll be going from frets 12 to frets 16, playing no more than 3 notes per string. This play only notes in the G major scale, starting from the 6th tone of the scale. This is what you'll come up with. That is the second shape. The second shape. The first shape. A whole step. The third shape, and the second shape. Continuing up to the 7th tone of the scale, we'll be playing the notes of the scale, starting at the 7th tone of the scale, continuing throughout the scale, playing only the notes of the G major scale in this case, and constraining ourselves from frets 14 to 18. This is what you would come up with. That is the third shape. The third shape, the second, a whole step, and the third. And that is our 7th box shape. So we've just gone through all 7 boxes. And since I do crappy videos, I didn't put any of it on the screen for you or transcribe it anywhere for you. So send me lots of hate and tell me how much you don't like it. But we've covered the material. Don't be lazy. Do the work yourself. Don't make me do it for you. Get out some paper. You know, you can just take a piece of paper like this and turn those into frets and draw it out, right? You don't have to do anything fancy. Draw them out. Take one of these like sheets of paper with lines on it and 6 strings for 6 frets, and then mark off 6 strings and mark off 5 to 6 frets and draw each one of your boxes out for yourself. Memorize them, get familiar with them, because they will be extremely useful. Why are they extremely useful? Because that's all the notes you'll ever need to really know outside playing accidentals and more exotic scales. Your majors and minors and mode, your major scales, your minor scales, and playing throughout all your modes. That's all the notes you'll ever need, and the pentatonic scales are just derived from parts of those. So take only 5 of those boxes, take 2 notes out of each one of them, and you've got your pentatonic scale right there in the middle of it. Case point being the 6th box, which is this. 6th box is the second shape, first shape, whole step, the third shape, and the second shape. Good. If you leave out the second tone of that, the second note of that, and the 6th of it, so you leave out the 2nd and the 6th, and you suddenly have your minor scale, right? What was I going to say about that? Yeah, that's all you got to do. You got to think about those boxes and just remove a few notes from them, and you'll have your pentatonic boxes. Your modes are just playing those 7 notes with the tone. When you play in your modes, if you think about your first box with that first note that you play being your root note, that will change when you start playing modes. That first note may no longer be your root note. So therefore, if you've done things like memorized kind of like patterns to land on certain notes that sound good on top of chords, that won't work anymore. But that's more advanced playing, and when you get to that point, you'll get to that point when you are ready, really. There's no point to rush playing modes. And at that point too, you should also kind of combine memorizing your fretboard a little more, so that you're not just memorizing shapes, that you can at least find the note on demand. Of course, you're not thinking about every note while you're playing, but when you're thinking about where am I going to end this, you either know the name of the note, or like myself, I like to kind of think of, I guess intervals more. I think of patterns, I suppose. Ultimately, it turns into patterns, I guess. I can think of fifths away and major thirds away and minor thirds away and fourths away and stuff like that, instead of thinking of exactly what that root note would be, or that note that landing on would be. I can think of it as being a fifth or major third or fourth, whatever, of the key that I'm in. And I don't necessarily know that note, but I know that that's a safe note. So that's it. Hope you enjoy this, hopefully very brief explanation of boxes.